Bangalore is easily one of the most congested, polluted cities in the world. There are shortages of water, electricity, housing, and so on. There are public health issues like dengue and malaria, thanks largely to a very poor sewage and sanitation infrastructure. Roads are very congested and there are traffic jams every day. So surely Bangalore would be a better place with fewer people in it. Or, by that same token, surely the world would be a better place to live in if there were fewer people living in it. So this is what I told you from lecture 1. I began the module by describing a very common notion that the rise of population on the planet is the single most important threat to our society's movement towards sustainability. To overturn this notion, I gave you a series of examples through my lectures. So what are the key messages that emerge from these examples and lectures? In lecture 1, I gave you an example of traffic in Bangalore. The message that emerges from that lecture is that more than the number of people who use a road, it is the way we use it that is important. We can cause traffic jams by driving our private vehicles to work, or we can have a smooth commute to work by using a public bus. More private vehicles does not only mean more pollution and more use of fuel in a fragile and finite world, but also less fairness for people who need to use the road but are excluded, either because they can't afford a car or because there aren't enough buses on the road. So in lecture 2, I told you about how population emerged to become such an evocative issue historically. Malthus believed that there would simply not be enough food for a growing population on a finite planet. And Hardin, who added to Malthus's views on population, believed that rising consumption of resources by a rising human population would impact a fragile planet. However, I also told you that just looking at the number of people on the planet is not enough, and that it is necessary to look at inequality and therefore at fairness as well. So in lecture 3, I mentioned how the work of Boserup, Sen, and Ostrom helped change notions of how rising population could overrun a finite and fragile planet, as put forward, as you know, by Malthus and Hardin. Boserup said that agricultural innovation would ensure food production keeping up with population increase. Sen suggested that increased food production is of no use if poverty prevents people from accessing vital resources. And Ostrom finally suggested the sustainable use of resources on a fragile planet is possible even with a large population if people are enabled to cooperate with each other. In the 4th lecture, I focused on how affluence has a much bigger role to play in today's unsustainable world than population. I gave you an example of water use in Bangalore and showed you how the rich consume the bulk of water and how a growing population actually deprives poor people much more of a vital water resource. A typical rich get richer, poor get poorer kind of scenario. In the 5th lecture, I showed you how technology, while being extremely beneficial in some situations, also has its dark side. Rich people have better access to technology and tend to consume more technology and, by that measure, resources as well. Poor people, on the other hand, often have reduced access to important resources because they cannot afford the technology and also bear the cleanup costs for discarded technology. I really hope you go through my lectures again, and when you do, I also hope that you begin to see the point that I am trying to make through these examples. If there is a single message I want you to remember from my lectures, it is this. Don't blame our sustainability problems on population. Pinning things on purely the number of people present in a place is really the easy way out. The easy way out ignores the way some people have higher access to natural resources. It ignores the way some people consume way more than is necessary. And it ignores the way high consumption of a few can deprive necessary consumption of many. The whole thing is unfair and wrongly victimizes the poor in our society. As I hope you understand now, it's not as simple as that.